Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I am Brian here at Red Leaf Ranch, and today I wanted to talk about seedlings. I wanted to show you guys how they were doing and how I'm taking care of them. So, let's get into it. I don't know about you guys, but I am so excited about finally working outside. So I'm really excited to see that the seedlings are doing really well. For the first week, I had them in the lowland greenhouse under a humidity dome, and the temperatures in there range from 80 to 90 degrees. So that high humidity and that high heat really helped a lot of our seeds to germinate. The first seeds I saw sprout up were a lot of our brassicas and then our tomatoes. The peppers took a little bit longer. They usually take 1 to 2 weeks to germinate, but I'm happy to see they're doing well. Again, for the first week, I did have them all under a humidity dome, but once the second week started, I actually removed it because that high humidity actually leaves the plants feeling a little soft, and I want to make sure they're strong and hardy so that when I start hardening them up to actually go outside, they are much more prepared for that, rather than just being like loose and flimsy little plants. Now, once I remove the humidity dome, they tend to dry out much quicker. So I was much more vigilant and making sure I was keeping the soil evenly moist. You really don't want your seedlings to dry out or they'll die. They're really delicate and fragile at this stage, so you want to make sure they're really happy. I'm actually going to water them now because some of them are looking a little dry. When watering the seedlings, I want to be sure I'm using a really soft setting on the head, or if you're hand watering, really be sure to, gently pour water in and not like cascade crazy amounts of water on them because they are really delicate and really fragile. So any hard gushes of water could actually hurt them or even break them. So I'm actually going to use the mist setting. Keeping it super light and super gentle. Great, they all look really moist and really happy. It has been about 2 weeks now since all of our seedlings have sprouted, so I actually have moved them into the highland greenhouse to acclimate to cooler conditions. When they're growing in the lowland, the high heat and the high humidity is like prime and optimal conditions for a lot of the seedlings, so they actually grow really fast, actually a little too fast. So I moved them into the highland greenhouse where the temperatures range from 75 to like 82 degrees, which is still really nice conditions for them, but not nearly as like prime as the lowland. So they're growing a little bit slower in here, which is really what I'm going for. I don't want them to grow too fast because then they'll be ready to plant way before it's actually time to plant them outside. I have about a month and a half before I can plant the peppers and the tomatoes outside, so I don't want them to grow too fast. The brassicas are going to go out much sooner, probably at the end of the month, so I'm actually going to start hardening them up next week. And in another video, I'm going to talk about how to harden the plants up and acclimate them to outdoor conditions so that when you introduce them to the outside world, they're pretty hardy and they don't die from the extreme sun, intense winds, and all the other crazy things that can happen when they're introduced outside. But for now, they're still doing really well inside. Right now, I actually want to take a closer look at the seeds and show you guys how successful some of them were and what I wish I did a little differently. So let's take a closer look. All right, so here we have tomatoes, eggplants, brassicas, and lavenders. As you can see, the tomatoes are doing really well. They're super happy. They were really loving those lowland conditions. Now I'm actually debating, I'm not sure if I should repot them or if I should just leave them in these cell trays. I feel like they'll need a little bit more room to grow to planting size, so I might actually repot them. Especially since, now that I'm looking at this and thinking about hardening the plants, it's going to be a little difficult hardening them with, the tomatoes and brassicas sharing the same tray. Like the brassicas are gonna need to be hardened before the tomatoes. So in hindsight, I wish I planted, brassicas strictly in one tray and the tomatoes and peppers in another. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. For now, looking at the tomatoes, they're super happy. They were definitely the most prolific of seedlings. And I do have some, like 2 that got into a tray. I'll be sure to divide them. Not sure how they'll do with that when they're actually divided. It might shock some of them. But hopefully they pull through. But they're doing really well. Under we have some eggplants that are doing really well also. So yeah, like I mentioned, the seedlings really love that high heat and humidity in order to germinate. So they really love the lowland, and we had a lot of successful germination. When growing them indoors, and for people who don't have them in a greenhouse, a lot of people get, heating mats to put under the seed trays to help them germinate that way. Like the tomatoes and these little eggplants here, they really loved that heat. So I'm really happy to see a lot of them germinated. I got a little bit carried away, and I actually planted a whole other tray up here of tomatoes and more peppers, because I actually think I want to sell some of them or give them away to friends so that they're able to grow them in their gardens too. It's really nice to be able to spread the love of gardening that way and help people grow their own food. This was my first year growing lavender from seed, and I had a few little sprouts. They seemed to be doing well. They did like that more well-draining soil, but they were really small seeds. I think when I watered them one time, I was a little harsh on the watering, and maybe the seeds actually floated out. I'm really not sure. But luckily we have a few little babies here, and they seem to be doing well. First time growing lavender. Not really sure how they're gonna do, but it's nice that we have something. I'm really excited about this tray over here. I planted green tomatillos, actually from seed. I actually went and bought a tomatillo and just planted the seeds straight from the fruit, and actually got some sprouts. So I'm really looking forward to growing them in the garden this year. Again, they really like that high heat and humidity, so I'm pretty sure that really played into the successful germination, especially for the peppers. I did not have that good of luck germinating peppers last year. I think I just got too late of a start. With the peppers, I actually started growing them halfway through the season. The other peppers that I grew in the garden, I actually bought as starts. But this year, I'm having a go at growing them directly from seed early on. And it's going really well, especially for these purple varieties. I was doing some research on them, and they really like high temperatures. So again, having them in the lowland definitely contributed to all of our sprouts. And you can already see how pretty their leaves are. I'm so excited to see how they do, as well as the other peppers. They're gonna be so much fun to grow. Now over here, this was all cauliflower, but only a few of them germinated. I'm not really sure what contributed to them not germinating. Again, I feel like same thing as the lavender. I might have watered it too hard, and the seedlings actually floated out. And I did plant other trays, so in case this would happen, there's a whole tray dedicated to some more brassicas. So hopefully there's a lot more going on over there. Here we have some broccoli that's doing well. Again, I really wish I planted all the brassicas in one tray rather than sharing them with peppers, because now I'm kind of in a pickle. I'm probably gonna have to repot these peppers and the tomatoes as well into a little bit bigger of pots to get them a little bigger before planting them outside. But these brassicas, I'm probably gonna leave in the trays and harden them up in here. Speaking of which, let's look at our other brassica tray. So here we have a bunch of brassicas ranging from cauliflower, kale, broccolis, and even some cabbage. It's so funny, they grow these long, lanky little sprouts and they end up becoming a tangled mess. That's why I'd rather not repot the brassicas and harden them up in the tray, because just removing them from this right now, at this stage especially, I feel like it would just trigger a lot of them, and I don't want to hurt any of them or shock any of them. So leaving them like this is probably the best route. But these little eggplant seeds over here, definitely gonna repot those and get them a little bigger. But I'm so happy to see so many of them grew. Gonna be fun exchanging starts with friends and selling some of them at the farmer's market. And then our last tray is this tomato. So this is the last tray that I started around the same time as the other ones, and it's all tomatoes and peppers. With this tray, I might actually experiment and leave all these starts growing in here to see how they do, and then repot some of the other ones to see what the difference in growth is, if the shock affects them too heavily. When I do repot the other ones, I'm not gonna uproot. I'm gonna take the entire little, packet of soil and plant it without disturbing much of the roots into the next pot, and just surrounding the root ball with more soil. I'm not gonna completely uproot them, so the shock shouldn't be too intense. But I'm really happy to see how abundant the seedlings are and how well they're growing. And they didn't experience any shock either when I took them from the lowland greenhouse to the highland. It was a really smooth transition, and they have definitely slowed down in growth. Like, it's crazy to see how big these grew in just 3 weeks. They're already growing their third phase of leaves. Some of these tomatoes, it's gonna come real quick, y'all. It's gonna come real quick. Well, I really hope you enjoyed that closer look of the seedlings. I actually went ahead and started some more seeds in the lowland greenhouse, like strawberries, basil, and marigolds. Marigolds are super beneficial for the garden, and it's best to start them 8 to 10 weeks before planting them outdoors, just so you have some nice starts, because they do take a little longer to germinate than some other flowers. So it's nice to have them in a controlled environment to ensure that they germinate and grow to a really nice size before planting them outside. But while these seedlings grow, Dom and I have been really busy planning the garden and getting things ready for when it's time to plant everything. I am so excited to share what we have in the works. We have been really focusing on planting more native plants in the garden to attract native wildlife, to really help the natural ecosystem that's already happening around us. It's really important to encourage the native wildlife in your garden. We need them, and you don't want to throw off the balance of the ecosystem that's already here when gardening. You want to encourage it so that your garden can thrive in the way nature intended it to. Really excited to share that. In the next week or two, I'll also be sharing a video with you guys on how to harden your seedlings. Don't make the same mistake I did last year. It is so important to prepare your seeds to be transplanted outside. But I will do a more in-depth video on that in the near future, so be on the lookout. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really hope this gave you some more insight on growing your own seeds and has inspired you to grow some more plants. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I am so happy to answer them. And if you guys have any tips on starting your own seedlings, please let me know too, because I am still learning. If you guys want to support the work we're doing here at the ranch, I'll leave a link in the description below where you can buy soaps and candles, all handmade by yours truly. All the support is greatly appreciated. Really, none of this would be possible without your guys' help. So thank you so much. I'm really grateful for you all. Again, I really hope you've enjoyed watching this video. Please be sure to share and subscribe to our channel to keep spreading the love for gardening. I'm Brian here at Breathley Ranch. Take care, everyone.